America is a third world country when it comes to our retirement income.
People have to understand that the game's really rigged against them. And the thing is that their 401k, even though people don't understand that, is really kind of cannon fodder for Wall Street. A new toaster from Walmart has more guarantees than a 401k.
The reason why Wall Street loves 401ks is it creates more security and control for them. But what does that ultimately mean? It's potentially less control for the investor.
In terms of integrity and honesty in the system, we rank the worst in the top 25. Mm-hmm. So we're 22 overall, but I think 25th in terms of integrity, which means that what Wall Street's continuing to do is just gambling with other people's money. If you look at the real rates of return, composite rates of return over a long period of time, it's really around 4 or 5%.
You're saying the average investor is not earning 12, they're earning
around
4 or 5%.
No, that's bullshit. And when I started seeing all these private equity firms starting to buy into buying companies out and then offshoring them into Bermuda, into the Cayman Islands or Malta, and then they were getting to capital reinsurers, I said, this is not good. When you look at the world's best retirement systems, and I have, they're all annuity-based, they're all guaranteed income-based.
Is there any reason to choose a bond over a whole life insurance policy when you look at the benefits? You're talking about, Pirates of Manhattan 3 and talking about indexing and some of the sketchy stuff that goes on there. What do you even mean by that? And what can we learn from what you know about indexing?
My point is that with indexing, it doesn't protect people, it doesn't provide retirement income. So the purpose of retirement plan, first and foremost, is retirement income.
Yep.
It's not to gamble with.
It's to convert the work, your savings, into a stream of income.
That's the primary reason of retirement income.
Yep. Once you save, though, where should you put your money? Barry, welcome back to my show. Not just once, not just twice, but this is our third official interview.
No, is it really the third one?
It's been 3 interviews. They've gotten crazy great ratings. We've gotten great reviews. And the reason we get good reviews is you're a researcher. People have a ton of respect for Pirates of Manhattan 1, Pirates of Manhattan 2, your book on guaranteed income.
Yeah.
You've been in documentaries, and you're still alive. I know on an
Jesus,
episode that we did, I was just like, how are you still alive? Because you've had people intimidate you for some of the research that we do. We're here at a conference. I'm trying to be as intentional as possible when I travel to be able to bring equipment so that I can have interviews with amazing people.
Yeah.
When we were walking to this room, you were like, America is a third world country when it comes to our retirement income.
Yes, no question.
You have another book that's at the printers right now called The Retirement Ruse.
Yes.
I want to just open up this conversation and just hear your thoughts around where we are today, some of the research that you're doing, because if people aren't familiar with you, I'll make sure that our previous conversations about your stories there, so you don't have to rehash all of that.
Sure.
But you are a researcher, and you have a nose for BS. And you're probably smelling a lot of it right now. So without further ado, where's your headspace at right now? And what is your newest book on? And let's dive into some of the issues and maybe some silver linings as it relates to what we can do about this.
Well, this whole book's kind of started out as a marketing guy, a friend of mine, Jeff in Indiana. He wanted me to do a marketing project. But anyway, making a long story short, he said, what can we do now? What can we release now? Because I'm working on this book. I've been researching the Pirates 3 essentially for about since my first book, so around 2009, so about 12, I don't know how many years, 13, 14 years, whatever the case may be. I was in the documentary, The Baby Boomer Dilemma, it's doing pretty well, I guess. And so one of the things which I really realized is that America was becoming a third world country in terms of retirement savings and things like that. And so one of the things which I'm trying to make people aware of the problem, because this is serious. I mean, we're a third world country when it comes to retirement safety, and I think I asked you the question: where do you think we in the top 25 nations? Yeah. Caleb, what do you think the U.S. of A. stands in terms of the top 25 where we are?
According to what? According to
there's
retirement.
Actually it's not me. It's Mercer, the actuarial firm Mercer out of Australia. They do a survey each year on who has the best retirement plans.
Okay. And America, so we have like the best military. We have all these things. I would put ourselves maybe top 15.
Not even close. We're number 22. Okay, we slipped from 19 to 22 this year. I think we're sandwiched between Hong Kong and Uruguay or something like that.
And why? What makes up? What goes into that rating system?
Well, there's a lot of factors, and it's going to be in the book, The Retirement Ruse, which will be released probably within 6 weeks. Where
Okay.
I'll let you know when
Okay.
it's out. But the real reason is in terms of integrity, and I think this is kind of the saddest fact about all. In terms of integrity and honesty in the system, we rank the worst in the top 25. So we're 22 overall, but I think 25th in terms of integrity, which means that what Wall Street's continuing to do is just gambling with other people's money.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is why the subtitle of the book is how stock buybacks, cryptocurrencies, and unicorns and SPACs essentially ruin the retirement savings system in America. And they have. And the fact of the matter is that more than 50% of all trading, Caleb, is actually companies buying back their shares to increase the executive insider compensation. And I guess if I was CEO, I'd want my company to be buying back my stock as well. But my point is that it's really we are a third world. There was another study done by the Alliance for Lifetime Income and Trade Group, and it's actually just released by this economist, and this in April. In terms of this is the real tragic of there's roughly 30.2 million Americans retiring between now 2025 and 2030, and 2/3 of them, Caleb, all I got is Social Security. I mean, we're up the paddle without a creek, and so one of the things that I'm really passionate about is that, helping my intention, if you will.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing this about me, okay? Because I couldn't do it if it was just about me. So it's really about for people like you who are there, going to be passing the baton to the business, but also really for retirement savers throughout the U.S. and for my office and other people, my family and everyone else, because we're really a third world country at this point. When it comes to retirement savings, unless you're really wealthy. Or unless you're a government employee, but that's
what's going to happen? I think that's that's obvious. The question that I have is like, okay, we can say that. What is actually going to happen? And according to your research, obviously you don't write a book on just one theory. What are some of the research that you're looking into that you're able to say this? And what is the retirement ruse in a nutshell? Like, obviously we want to buy the book, but if you had to explain your thesis of the retirement ruse, is it just literally to say we have no hope? Or is it to be like, hey, like this is where we're at, but this is what we can do because of this situation?
Well, there's always hope. You always have to have hope,
Right.
And I'm a Christian, and I've said on national TV or actually national radio, the most important thing in my life is God. But there's always hope. But the thing is really to make people aware of the problem.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what I'm trying to expose first, and then give them the solution using insurance companies for annuities and insurance products and so on, which really, and when you look at it. Okay, and I've looked at I'm not the U.S., but I looked at when you look at the world's best retirement systems, and I have, they're all annuity based, they're all guaranteed income based. Okay, so this sounds crazy in the United States, but if you look at the Netherlands, which is like a country which is always in the top, it's always in the top 2 or 3, or the Finland or Australian system, and they're all annuity based, guaranteed income based. So the thing is that people in the retirement years should have some peace of mind.
Yeah.
But instead they have to essentially keep working.
You're saying that the countries that have the highest rated system have some type of pensions, or they figure out a way to pensionize your money. Do they put their money in equities? Are they putting their money in the S&P? Or what is their retirement system? How does it look different than
they're all
what we do in the
they're all
States?
annuity based, defined benefit
From the very beginning?
Yeah,
or?
I mean most of the good ones. They're all defined benefit annuity.
Okay.
And a pension plan of Social Security is an annuity. Okay.
Yeah.
So the whole people say they don't like annuities, they don't like pensions, they don't like Social Security. But
Yeah.
So if you look at the pure retirement, the best in class. Best in breed, if you will, Jim Cramer, best in breed. If you look at the best ones in breed, they're all annuity guaranteed income type of base. And I'm not against equities. They pose a huge threat to the retirement space.
Yep.
But if you look at what people really want in their retirement years, they want to have some peace of mind so they can travel or spend time with their children or grandchildren and so forth. And unfortunately, a lot of people are being robbed of this. And so if you look at the collapse of civilizations throughout history, Caleb, from a historical perspective, you look at the collapse of the Roman Empire, the Spanish Empire, the British Empire, the Dutch Empire. If you look at they all have the same things in common. There's too much debt, which we have, too many wars and too many fronts, which we have, and debasement of the currency. So we have
we have.
So we have all three.
Yeah.
So I mean, is Mark Twain said history doesn't repeat itself, but it sure rhymes.
Yeah.
So we have these three. I think our presence on here on this earth is to be of service to others.
Totally.
So God's given me this gift. Don't ask me how to change the oil in my car.
Yeah.
But I understand how these financial.
So I want to double tap on that. Okay, so we talk about devaluing of the currency. We talk about being in wars. We talk about some of these issues. How does annuities and life insurance benefit that? Because if the U.S. dollar is worthless, like what's annuity? Annuity's going to be paying me in a stream of worthless dollars. Obviously we're kind of screwed if the dollar goes away. We have bigger issues.
Yeah.
Are you on the train of like, hey, we should be getting into crypto, we should be diversifying in other cryptocurrencies, or are you pretty much saying what is your solution to because again, you're not, just tell me what you want to say.
Yeah.
What should we do knowing what you know? Like if I could download your brain being my age or being someone maybe in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, what would you do knowing what you know as it relates to your money, not investment advice?
Well, I think person's faith the most important thing. First of all,
Totally.
I have my 5 F's. Caleb, first thing, most important thing is my faith.
Yeah.
Second thing is my family.
Yeah.
Third is my friends like yourself.
Yeah.
Then fourth is physical fitness.
Yeah.
And that last one is finances. So I think really you get the hierarchy of needs, if you will.
Yeah.
And by the way, Abraham Maslow and I have the same birthday, April Fool's Day. Yeah. But anyway, so I think really the faith is the most important thing first, And,
Totally.
But I think the thing is you have to learn how to save before you invest.
Yeah.
But now everything's just let's put it in the casino, and really, it's really about love and caring. Learning discipline. It's a lot. There's no secrets to discipline. The greatest secret of success, there is no secrets, but a lot of implementing discipline and savings into people's lives and things like that, and getting out of debt. Because really from a personal perspective, there's nothing you and I can do about
Is the problem people are having a retirement issue, or are they not having enough money to begin with?
Both.
Okay, so on one side, on the accumulation side, we got to figure out ways to save and invest more. And you're not anti-stock market, but you have, like, if someone's in their 30s or 40s and saying, should I put my money in the market? Should I do 401k match? Should I put a Roth IRA? Should I, where should I put my money if I'm accumulating my money?
Well, I'll give you my whole thing on the 401k. I always tell people that a new toaster from Walmart has more guarantees than a 401k. Okay. I guess maybe they can put that on my tombstone.
I didn't know Walmart sold toasters. I guess they sell everything. So that's a new one for the BetterWealth podcast.
Yeah. So that's and the people go, cha-ching, I get it.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. And the thing is that you have to understand that we have what is called the asset. Remember Dwight Eisenhower said the military-industrial complex. Now we have, I call it, the asset management industrial complex. So. So people have to understand that the game's really rigged against them. And the thing is that their 401k, even though people don't understand that, is really kind of cannon fodder for Wall Street. Now, the funny thing is we're in the Bahamas right now, which we're very blessed to be in, and so very, very grateful. But right 4 or 5 miles from here, we're seeing Bankman-Fried was running his crypto FTX empire. Now, the whole thing is, and also what I want to have people do is believe in themselves.
Right.
Do the research themselves. Don't take my word for it.
Right.
Do your own research, okay? But if you look at the clowns, okay, that invested into FTX, they put $1.8 billion. Now, actually, and this is in the book, The Retirement Ruse, by the way, and I got this information from the bankruptcy filings and Crunchbase, which I use as a great database. They put $1.8 billion of other people's money was put into FTX. They couldn't even read a balance sheet, and then $8 billion of people's money, other retail investors. So there's $11 billion. Now they're saying everyone's money is going to be made whole. We don't know yet.
Yeah.
Because if you look at history, it takes there's a very long lag time on this stuff. But so the whole thing is, and there's going to be some type of a digital currency. Let's face it. But this is just, and there's numerous scams. And I'm not against it, but all these really supposedly smartest guys in the room with all their Ivy League MBAs and things like that were pretty dumb. They didn't even read the balance sheet.
Right.
I mean, this is,
And so how does that relate to 401ks being like from a standpoint? You're saying the same people that are making those mistakes with FDX are
they're using
also,
other people's money. This is getting into the SPACs. We're kind of jumping around here, but what freaked me out is that, and the funny thing is, people can go on Yahoo and figure this out.
Yeah.
But what freaked me out was that all these companies are going public, whether it be crypto firms or these new unicorn companies, electric vehicles, and the whole thing. And they're being dumped onto public markets, and and I'll bet you lunch on it. I would say 80-90% of the time, the top 3 or 4 shareholders would always be the passive mutual funds, Vanguard, State Street, BlackRock, Fidelity Capital Funds. So my point is that all these companies are going public, and when they go public, they're using their 401k money to be liquefied. So my point is that people don't realize it, but their money's actually feeding the Wall Street casino.
Yeah, and if I had to guess, Wall Street probably loves things like 401ks because it creates more restrictions for people to take out their money.
Well,
so they have a more. If I just put my money in a brokerage, okay, I could take out that money tomorrow. And I might have to pay taxes and all, but the person holding on to it has less quote unquote control. But now if you put it into a 401k, there's restrictions, there's penalties, there's potential tax things. So you have to be 59.5. And so at the end of the day, what the reason why you're saying, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but the reason why Wall Street loves 401ks is it creates more security and control for them. But what does that ultimately mean? It's potentially less control for the investor. Now, I got the opportunity I've sat down with the person that founded the 401k. And what's funny is...
No, Ted. Ted's a friend of mine.
Which I believe you introduced me to Ted.
I did. Yeah, Ted's a good friend of mine.
I asked Ted this, and this is very interesting. I asked Ted this. I was like, what do you think is the best characteristic of the 401k is? Do you know what he said?
Well,
I'll answer.
What did Ted say?
I don't want to get you in trouble. What Ted told me about one of his the best things to the 401k was that it made it harder for people to access their money. And in a way, he's right, because a lot of people in America, if they had easy access to their money, they would take it all out.
I agree with
his
that.
thought process is the 401k's restrictions are actually an asset or a benefit, but what you're ultimately saying by saying that is you have no hope. If your whole benefit is that you have less control, I don't know what to say to that. But again, we're speaking to different people. I think a lot of people that watch this show, they're watching. Who's going to watch our interview? It's only people that really want to go to the next level. Yeah. You're not the lowest common denominator when it comes to the people as it relates to their money. They're not watching the show for better or worse. They might have the secret of life, but they're not they're actually not thinking about their money in this way. So maybe Ted's right. My whole point is, those people, do they have any hope? If you have $200,000 at the end of retirement, I mean, what's that going to be with inflation? I think those are the conversations that no one's even having. But we're just totally screwed when it comes to when you actually look at the data, and when you look at where we are as a country, where you look at the value of our dollar. It's what are we actually going to do? I know I'm saying a ton here, but it's just very interesting to see how can we take this information and what would we actually do about it?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm doing. I mean, I think it's always, life is tough on everyone. You follow me? And life beats the piss out of everyone.
Yeah.
It beats you down. Okay, we know that. But there's always hope. I mean, and who's I don't know if you listen to Jordan Peterson. You ever listen to Jordan Peterson?
Yes.
Yeah, he's one of my faves. But in any event, he said, I'm betting my life on, and improving these things and seeing light at the end of the tunnel. So I think there's always hope.
Yeah.
I think guys like yourself are really an inspiration to me. I'm very proud of you for doing what you're doing. But when you look at it, it's pretty grim. But I think we also have to be grateful. And you live in the US of A. We kind of won the world's lottery in the grand scheme of things. I mean, we're in the Bahamas here. We're in this beautiful luxury hotel, which is incredible. But if you go a mile from here, you have abject poverty. So I think there's always hope on that. I think it's really I don't know, having people find their own passion, doing what they're going to do, and so forth, and work with a good advisor who maybe you're associated with, or somebody, but stop listening to the noise and really focus on what they love.
Yep. So I'm going to, before we get into Pirates of Manhattan 3, which is going to be coming out here soon, can't wait for that. Before we go on to that, I just want to, okay, so let's give people hope, or let's give people the Barry Dyke framework.
Yeah.
Okay. What should I be doing if I'm accumulating money? If I'm 20 to 60 listening to this?
Yeah.
What things should I do? And then if I'm watching Ready to Retire or in retirement, what should I do? Again, not investment advice, but I'm really going to stick you on this. I don't want to just be like, we have no hope. Like, what can someone do in both of these stages? What questions should they ask? And how can they take this interview and say, hey, this is going to be a new question or insight that I'm going to do to give me more hope and hopefully more efficiency when it comes to my money?
Well, the first thing of all is a lot of this, Caleb, is not brain science. Okay.
Yep.
First of all, the rate of savings.
Yeah.
And again, there's a I wish I had the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development out of Paris, France. So they do a savings rate each year, and again, I think maybe in terms of net rate of savings, if you live in a country like Norway, people actually save about 20% of their income.
Yep.
And I think we're 3% now,
Yeah,
maybe
3%.
or less. And actually, during the financial crisis, we were actually negative. So the first thing is to save.
We need to save more.
15, 20% of save. If people save 15, 20% of their money.
Yep. Which actually, savings is a reflection of the heart. Like, we have identity tied up in the wrong things. And so my guess would be we're over-consuming.
Yes.
We're over-consuming, which is creating problem number one is we're not saving enough.
Yeah, so we're not saving enough. So that's really kind of a fundamental. I think it's, if you save,
Yep.
you have your life opens up to opportunity.
Right.
You don't
Once you save, though, where should you put your money? Hey, it's Caleb Williams here. I'm just interrupting this video quickly to invite you to check out our And Asset Vault. You may have been there. We've actually revamping it. And if you are somebody that wants to learn more about, is life insurance the right fit for me? Does this And Asset make sense? Like, does this actually help me be more efficient? We've put together a 10-minute documentary style video that I think does a really, really good job giving the history, why the And Asset, different setups and designs that we use. And then we have an And Asset Vault that gives like case studies, calculators, handbooks, and so much more. We are here to serve you, whether it's a conversation, whether it's education, or the video. So make sure to go check out andasset.com/vault to learn more.
Well, obviously, if you study history, I mean, if you look at within today's economy, where's the safest place to put money? Is with a life insurance company, particularly mutual one. I mean, it's and there's pros and cons of this too. But when you read it, when you do the study, which I have done, when you understand these are contracts.
Yep.
It's illegal. We promise to pay in the event of your death. We promise to pay this amount for the rest of your life. Which are annuity and life insurance, they're legal contracts.
Right. What do you say to the person that is saying, well, the stock market has averaged 12%, and if I put my money in a life insurance, the IRR on that might be 4 or 5%.
Well, that's a lot of BS anyhow. That really is. It kind of infuriates me if you start smoothing things out. Then actually, these two actuarial firms, which Cliffwater Associates and out of Marina Del Rey in California, and they also have an office in Manhattan. And then another good friend of mine, Steve Church, who's has an own actuarial investment advisory firm. They both did two studies concurrently, and they didn't even know it. Actually, they used to work together. But when you look at the rates of return of large pension funds, which are really the only thing we can really measure, because they're annuities over a long period of time. If you look at the real rates of return in the market, they pretty much mirror 30-year Treasury bills. For long-term investment, you're throwing private equity and stock trading. And I'm not, again, there's always going to be outliers going to make money, not disagreeing with that. But if you look at the real rates of return, composite rates of return over a long period of time, it's really around 4 or 5%.
You're saying the average investor is not earning 12; they're earning 4 or 5%.
No, it's bullshit.
Okay, I love that. Yeah.
It's bullshit. I mean, and that's what Dave Ramsey says, and I think what Dave Ramsey's saying about debt is really good stuff. Okay, but the whole idea of the 12 now, the mutual funds, this is kind of music to their ears. Okay, and there's another problem which we have now too, Caleb, which is all the indexing going on in the market. Roughly more than 50% of all 401k monies are indexed, and that's that's what getting into the Pirates 3 book, but there's a real huge problem with indexing in and of itself.
Okay, before we jump on that, so we're going to talk about Pirates Manhattan 3 and indexing, but going back to accumulation, you want to save more, and would you go on record for saying they should put all their money into life insurance companies or a portion? Like, what are we talking asset allocation?
First, the whole thing is getting discipline down, to save
20% or more.
20% of your savings should be in insurance and investment products. I'm not against a 401k beginning to match on. So I'm not against it, but I'm saying, first of all, save, because the whole thing is that if you're 30 years old, your money's in a straitjacket for the next 30 years, okay? Unless your diet become disabled or you become an emergency. So again, I'm not against the 401k per se, but really you want to have access and use on your money. And then plus you also, look at really protecting, if you're a young family, protecting the people you really love.
Yep. Would you use, if you didn't care about like business or real estate, would you use life insurance as like a bond alternative? And so it would be like a 60-40, 60% equities, 40%?
Yeah, exactly. It's superior. And,
Okay. I don't know if you understand permanent life insurance and how it can be structured and the benefits. I don't know why you would choose a bond over it. I don't know if you have, is there any reason to choose a bond over a whole life insurance policy when you look at the benefits?
No, because when you look at how, the biggest market is not the stock market, it's the bond market.
Right.
When you look, and that place, man, that is a tricky place to operate.
Totally tricky.
That's totally volatile. You think stocks are volatile? Bonds,
Yeah.
So why would I try to manage a bond portfolio when I can have some like a professional life company? Okay, it really doesn't.
And you get all these other living benefits with life insurance that you don't get in bonds. A bond gives you a yield, and in a lot of times life insurance can get you a greater yield, and it's way more diversified. Think about a fund versus one individual bond. What's more risk? Any individual diversification, but that diversification comes with other benefits. A bond doesn't have death benefit. A bond doesn't have chronic illness riders. A bond doesn't have all these other things. A bond in a lot of cases doesn't even give you a tax growth benefit that a life insurance policy can do. And so I look at this and say, if someone, if they didn't switch anything with their 401k and all they did is they took their bonds and switched it out with life insurance, over time, they would get a lot of more options, and they would be better off in accumulation because they would have control, protection, and all. But then they would also be better off in distribution if they just switched out their bonds with life insurance. Any comments on that? I want to talk about this concept of infinite banking in a second.
Yeah, but the whole thing, also to the volatility of bonds. I'll give you a great example.
That's true.
This is a true story. When I was first getting into the financial service business, was about 40 years ago. My mother had inherited she had roughly about $100,000 in bonds at the time, and I was working, so she didn't want me to really look at this stuff. But this is back before your time, back in the 80s, and I didn't really know enough. But by the time I looked at all her stuff, she had essentially lost over more than 50% of her value because when interest rates go up, the value of long bonds go down. So she got crushed, okay? Yep. And I didn't even know. So when you look at, so that's the problem with bonds. But if I have my money in an annuity or into a life product, there's actually contractual guarantees. So you're protecting yourself against interest rate risk.
Yep. Love that. All right, let's talk about accumulation. Maybe you're watching this. A lot of people who are like entrepreneurs, real estate investors. They don't really want to put their money in the Wall Street and the stock market. You and I are saying it's not evil, but there's a lot of shenanigans. If you're that type of person, do you endorse putting a large chunk of your savings into life insurance and then borrowing against that asset to do other investing? What is your thoughts on that?
It's great. It's just I've done it myself, and I think I wrote in my first book, but we just need to have a Mickey Mouse plan. Yeah. But then it's a true story. And actually, if you go to Disneyland, the fact of the matter, I think when Walt Disney got bankrupt like 7 times. I think he went bankrupt 7 times. I think he had a nervous breakdown or 2. But make a long story short, but when everyone turned him down, they thought he was crazy when he was starting Disneyland. They said, "Walt, you're nuts." And this is 1952, and he had to hire the architecture firm to create the Disneyland out in California. And he had to come up with like $250,000 at the time. And the truth of the matter is that when everyone turned him down, he sold his house. He had a house in Palm Springs, like a winter house, and then he raised some money from some of his employees. But the majority of his money came from a life policy. So we wouldn't have Disney today without the life insurance loan. So all we really need is a Mickey Mouse plan.
Yep. So I love that example. A lot of people, I think, have taken your research and used it in their own marketing, including me. So thank you for that research. And you're essentially saying if you have an entrepreneurial drive, or if you see other investments, you can use life insurance as a storage place to protect, grow, save your money, and then borrow against that asset to do other things.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, where would and you can't do this with the stock. You can't do this with a bond.
You can, but it's way more favorable to do it in life
insurance.
And
then if you're getting into margin accounts, then you're really beholden to the brokerage firm's interest rate and stuff.
If you're listening to this and you're in retirement or nearing retirement, and let's say all your money is in a 401k, IRA, and maybe some savings accounts. Okay, what do you do? Is life insurance, if you're nearing retirement, do you touch life insurance at all, or you just talk about annuities and keeping some of your money in the market? Like, what do you do? Again, not investment advice, but what kind of conversations are you having with someone that's got all their eggs in the equity basket, and now they're trying to figure out coming down the mountain, and they want to maximize their time coming down the mountain?
Yeah, well, it's stupid, really, to if you're particularly around retirement age, because it's so bloody volatile.
Totally.
Who knows what's in store, but we will have another market correction. That much I'm sure of. We will, because this party always comes to an end. So I think really everyone's different, Caleb.
Right.
I mean, you just don't know. And I've been doing it so long. The more I know, the more I don't know.
Yeah. But
I do know that people who have set up guaranteed income plans for people, I have no complaints. I mean, they're delighted. So the purpose of retirement plan, first and foremost, is retirement income. Yep. It's not to gamble with.
It's to convert the work, your savings, into a stream of income.
That's the primary reason of retirement income. Yep. We call them retirement income plans.
Yeah, I think retirement should literally be called future cash flow. Because then people may make different decisions. If they're like, I'm saving for future cash flow versus I'm saving for retirement, no one knows even what that means. And so we almost hide behind this word retirement, but what is retirement? It should be a future cash flow stream. And so if we had that end in mind, we may think differently about.
Think with the end in mind was Stephen Covey. Remember the Stephen? Think with the end in mind. So that's the purpose of retirement plan. But in America, we've gotten so far off the rails. But the research I've done, I found out the rest of the world doesn't think like us. Yeah. Hence, we're one of the worst in the civilized world.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about Pirates of Manhattan 3. You talk about indexing. Before we get into like the details, zoom out. What was Pirates of Manhattan 1 and 2, and why are you writing a third? And I feel like I don't want to put words in your mouth, but this is kind of like the trilogy and maybe the last Pirates of Manhattan book.
Yeah, it could be. Well, what it was, and this is kind of funny, a true story. But when I wrote the first Pirates book, I was on a beach in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, at the time, and I was reading a book, and I was reading about leverage bias, and I said, I read a lot. How did I miss all this stuff? But so I started reading about private equity, and I said, man, this stuff is bad. I didn't even figure it out, but. So I kind of put so I wrote the first Pirates book after, and then I wrote Pirates 2, which is about target date funds, which is another way for Wall Street to essentially control your savings. And then I wrote guaranteed income. But I started on this journey, and I said, there's more to this. There's really more to this. And then I started studying all the bankruptcies of private equity companies and the portfolio companies and just the massive scale on it. And I said, no one really understood this. So that's when, I kind of go into my deep dive. And then what really frightened me was how private equity was getting into retirement space and essentially and using life insurance reserves as their piggy bank. Now, the irony of the whole thing, Caleb, this all goes back to Drexel Burnham Lambert when they collapsed in 1990, went into bankruptcy, and they brought first executive companies into it, which was Executive Life of New York and Executive Life of California. And it took 30 years, Caleb. I mean, this was bad. I mean, and I have all the documented research, believe it or not, So, but the same people who are behind this stuff are now in the life insurance space. So I saw kind of the perfect storm. So we're shitty in the world league tables for retirement income. So I said, who's driving all the? And I said, one of the only places, really safe places to put your money is with a life company. But then when I started seeing all these private equity firms starting to buy into buying companies out and then offshoring them into Bermuda, into the Cayman Islands or Malta, and then they were getting to capital reinsurers. I said, this is not good. So the whole thing was the trick was this: doing the research and making it people simple.
Yeah.
And it's affecting everybody, and particularly things like healthcare. And I'm really not. I'm just pro people on this. I'm not Republican or Democrat or any of this. I'm a political atheist at this point. But I just saw this incredible carnage within the economy caused by private equity. But now, all the asset managers want everyone to put their money into it, but it's another long-term contract for them to gamble with your people's money. So this is not going to end well. This is, and then God was a blessing. I had a friend of mine, Tom Gober. I don't know if you've met him. He'd be good for your podcast as well.
I love an intro.
But I had done all the research of all the bankruptcies and all the dividend recapitalization, which is gross what they're doing. And then, so I knew all these bankruptcies and things like that. But then he showed me the kind of the tricks what they were doing. They were offshoring their companies in Bermuda and other companies. So they were operating on paper thin reserves. I said, this is not good. Yeah. So that's why I started doing it. It's been a long journey, Caleb. I work on it 4 to 5 hours every day, and then maintain a practice. But but it is coming to fruition at this point.
What do you do? So you said you wake up at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
And you wake up at 4 a.m. and you go. What do you research? What are you reading?
Well, I'm kind of weird in the stuff is that I research the bankruptcy reports. Some people get off of I get off on bankruptcy reports. So bankruptcy filings. And the funny thing is, a lot of it is all available in the public domain. And so,
Why bankruptcy filings? What do you learn through looking at that?
Because I have to say, who's the private equity firm behind it?
Interesting, because usually where there's blood in the water, the sharks are going for.
Yeah. So people say, well, bankruptcy. I've never heard about bankruptcy. Well, this past week or a couple weeks ago, Stewart Healthcare Systems, they went bankrupt. I don't know if you're familiar when they're based out of Dallas. There's 33 hospitals in there. Now it's owned by Cerberus Capital, and actually Elizabeth Warren she's going to kind of bring out a bill that because people have died because of private equity raping these companies. So, but people say, well, what about that? Well, so you ever heard of Chrysler Motors? You ever hear of Toys R Us? You ever hear of Payless Shoes? You ever hear of California Pizza Kitchen or Neiman Marcus? Yeah. People say, I said, guess what? They're all owned by private equity. So, but the whole thing is so big, as interest rates rise, it's going to be more difficult for these guys to get traditional financing from banks. So they are in turn going after the private equity or going after the life insurance reserves because they're very, large stewards of capital. So stay tuned on it. Yeah. So it's just, but that, so it's a major problem.
I think I might have to have you on once a month, and you can just give me the summary of here's who's going bankrupt, and this is why it matters to you. One of the big insights that I got from your book, and many people have gotten from your book, is banks own life insurance. Yeah. And you also looked at corporations own life insurance. Yeah. Are banks continuing to buy life insurance?
Yeah, they are, and that's again, this is going to be in the book, and because everyone's asked me. How do you find out how much banks? And then they're making it difficult. Even someone like a nerd like me you have to really kind of go into the call reports, and you have to really be very patient. And it used to be really easy 2, 3, 4 years ago. You could go in and get the balance sheets. You can't get it anymore. So yeah, they're still buying it. And then what amazed me and is that all the financial institutions are buying annuities. for their own
the asset managers are buying annuities for themselves. Love that.
Yeah. So
do what they do. Don't do what they say.
So there's essentially three insurance products, if you will, for retirement plans. One is called a buy-in, which essentially you're buying in you're insuring, you're returning over the insurance company the obligations of a pension plan. And the biggest one recently was IBM. They bought one for $16 billion, 100,000 people. Google it, people, you don't believe me. In any event, but there's essentially three types of insurance products. A buyout, which this was a buyout for IBM. Then you have a buy-in, maybe it's some part of it's a salary pension plan, or someone's a union, so maybe they just may just insure the salary portion, not the union, which would be subject to collective bargaining. And then you have what is called a longevity swap, which essentially when a company like who would be great, Deutsche Bank, or Deutsche Bank, or UBS. UBS used to be smart, the major investment bank. So actually, they're going to insurance companies, and they're essentially saying, "Look, we don't know if we can manage this pension risk long term, so we're going to an insurance company to make sure it works."
Yeah.
So it's all true. So this would be in the book as well. But so like even Bank of America bought an annuity for their own pension plan in the UK. So it's really amazing so you start digging, and then so one of the other things which I'd look at is pension risk transfers, and the benefit of having the internet is that I was able to research this in the UK, which is much bigger than us. But they really, the funny thing is, Caleb, you know where I get probably 85% of my information? Press releases. So, because when these companies do a big deal, they all brag about it.
Yeah.
We insured IBM for $100,000, 100,000 employees, and we did $16 billion. There's press releases all over the place.
Yeah.
Well, they do the same thing in the UK. So I just Google it, and then
go down the
sometimes they'll be in pawn. They'll be quoted in bonds.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you call it? Pounds.
Yeah.
So I'll just do the conversion. And so that was the amazing thing, is that 85% of my stuff is in press releases, and then the bankruptcy filings. They can't erase those stuff yet. So a lot of if you look at the U.S. bankruptcy court in Delaware, Wilmington, Delaware, most of these bankruptcy happen. And so this is all verifiable. So
you're watching TikTok. Barry's downloading bankruptcy documents and reading off. Last question before we wrap this thing up is indexing. You're talking about Pirates from Manhattan 3 and talking about indexing and some of the sketchy stuff that goes on there. What do you even mean by that, and how can we what can we learn from what you know about indexing?
Well, I'm kind of a believer in index. I'm a closet indexer myself.
When you say index, you're talking about just like putting your money in the S&P,
diversifying for equities,
low fees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and actually one of the things, the benefit of writing the books, is that I get to know Jack Bogle, the founder of Vanguard, and he actually liked the research. He actually encouraged me. He says, "You're working on a really big problem."
Wow.
And even Jack Bogle warned about if too much of the market becomes indexed, then we have a major problem, which we're there.
Interesting. Why?
Well, because there's no control. I mean, there's no stewardship.
Well, and there's no loyalty. If you get out of an index, the volatility that a business could have would be treacherous.
And just if a company has a market cap, I mean, you'll see the bankruptcies, which is going to be in the first book. All the SPACs have gone bankrupt. 80% of them, we're involved with index funds. But my point is that with indexing, it doesn't protect people. It doesn't provide retirement income.
Yeah.
It's not a bad way to accumulate or be in the equities and protect yourself, but it doesn't do anything for retirement income.
Yeah.
So what you even have is BlackRock, and this is Larry Fink, they're huge. I mean, they're the 800-pound gorilla. They're about $10 trillion in assets under management, mostly indexed, because you and I helped them buy Barclays when they went under in 2009. You and I, but so BlackRock is the biggest 800-pound gorilla. They're telling people that for retirement income now, that people should using their life paycheck program, which is actually index funds in an annuity. So this is part of the solution, but I think people are going to be better off by dealing with someone like yourself, who actually does a little more fine tuning and more research
Yeah.
for quality. I mean,
Yeah.
One of the things too is quality never goes out of style.
Yeah.
So I think if you
If I could summarize our conversation, obviously lots of research. I'm excited for our audience to be able to support you in your research, and I have more ideas even off cameras about how we can make that happen. But you pretty much, your takeaways are save more. If the national average is under 3% for the United States, it needs to be more like 20 or more. So that's a huge thing. And then think with the end in mind. And that could look like different for if you're an entrepreneur, that might look different than if you're someone who's going to work for someone or a W-2 person or a real estate investor, but think with the end in mind. Yeah. And net worth in a lot of cases is the thing that a lot of people get seduced by, but it really doesn't pay the bills at the end of the day. And so future cash flow matters, and don't be scared of certain products that Dave Ramsey said are bad, because maybe you're going to be using those products not as accumulation tools, but as distribution tools. And so how's that for a summary of some of your work?
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's just, because I think, if you're born in the U.S., you kind of won the lottery in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
But, my concern really is the next generations, ability to buy a home and things of that nature, and to stay out of debt and get a college education are reasonable. And I think the more people will be educated, the better off they're going to be. And it's my Caleb. This is my take. People were educated 100 years ago without the internet.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think that college is the solution.
No,
I think people are getting dumber as they go to college.
No, college. That's an indoctrination system.
That's right.
Yeah, no, that's a huge part of the problem.
I agree. The more technology comes out, the more dumb we get, and as a result, it's discernment and wisdom sometimes goes out the window with that, because history doesn't repeat itself to the T. But as Morgan Housel will say, it's the same as usual. He has a phenomenal book, and he just pretty much says, situations change, but people don't. Yeah. And we just end up repeating a version of the history. And so it's very interesting stuff. Barry, thank you for coming on. How can the people watching this or listening to this support you and your work?
Yeah, well, first of all, just sign up to go to barrymdike.com and just get on the email list and buy the books if you really want to understand this stuff.
Please do. Even if you're not going to read it, buy it, because it really does. It supports your research. Yeah. And it's like a very cheap way for us to keep people like you reading bankruptcy reports at 4 a.m. Because I'm telling you, no one's going for your job there.
No, but I'm fascinated by this stuff. Yeah. So for the $80, $90, it's going to be the best. I mean, people have hundreds of thousands of dollars and they're so cheap. And people, they're so cheap. I mean, and if you study, and I love the internet, believe me, and I subscribe to all the news services, Bloomberg, you name it, I got them all. Yep. Okay, and I use my iPad, but the best information still, the best research is always still the written word. Yep. It's kind of like the Bible, but the best research is still the written word, and when people get nuts like me, research the heck out of this stuff. Yep. And you're not going to get this from a 15 a minute or two TikTok, with all due respect to TikTok, because so they really to do the written word, but what amazed me is when you start digging is that how huge the institutions are actually involved in this stuff. Yeah. And so the blessing is with people like you is that we'll get this out in the mainstream media, because that's the mainstream media is totally.
I think I'm thinking bigger with this show, and again, it's thanks to the people watching this. It's like I'm like, hey, we actually potentially have influence here, and we could potentially interview some people that could get people to think differently. And our whole purpose at BetterWealth is to get people to live intentionally, like give people the permission to live
intentions. It's all about that's what it's all about, isn't it?
That's right. And part of the way that we do that is try to shine a light on some of the sketchy things that are going on, but also trying to highlight the people that are doing things right. Barry, thank you. And I want to just say this to you, the listener, or person that's watching this on YouTube, person that watches clips on our other social media, like, you give us the ability to interview people like Barry. So if you are not subscribed to this channel, there's like over 50% of people that watch our videos, Barry, are not subscribed. So if you're watching this and not subscribed, it really helps us out if you hit that subscribe button, and sharing this information really helps us out. And if you have a question that you want Barry to answer, if you put it in the comments below, I'm blessed to be friends with him, and I can get him the questions, and maybe we can have another fireside chat when your book comes out, and I can ask questions of our community. And so, Barry, thank you.
God bless.
And I look forward to future conversations.
Thanks, Caleb. You're the best.